Something remarkable is unfolding in global politics. Donald Trump launched a war with Iran without consulting allies, without preparing the global economy, and without securing support from the very countries he relies on. Now, as the conflict begins to spiral beyond control, Trump is asking the world to step in. But the answer he's getting is no. One country after another is refusing to join his war. Germany, France, Italy, Australia, Japan, and even the United Kingdom have all declined. At the center of this growing resistance stands a leader who made his position clear from the start, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney. Carney was among the first to openly reject the idea that Canada should back Trump's war ambitions. And now, it appears much of the world.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney just said in very clear terms inside Parliament, quote, "Canada will never participate in an Iran offensive with the United States. Canada will never participate in an Iran offensive, period." This is a very important statement from Prime Minister Carney. He says, Canada is not participating in the United States and the Israeli offensive, and we will never participate in it.
The crisis began when Donald Trump initiated a military confrontation with Iran. The decision shocked America's allies, not because tensions with Iran were new, but because the move appeared to come without coordination, consultation, or preparation. These were the same allies Trump would later expect to support him. The immediate result was chaos in global energy markets. Iran moved to halt traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical shipping lanes on Earth. Nearly 20% of global oil exports pass through that narrow passage. The moment shipping was disrupted, energy prices surged worldwide. Suddenly, the world was facing a geopolitical crisis capable of triggering inflation, disrupting supply chains, and destabilizing entire economies. Yet, instead of rallying behind Washington, many countries began asking a different question. Why should they help fix a crisis they were never?
U.S. allies are reacting with caution or just flat out refusing a request from Donald Trump to help secure oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has almost entirely halted traffic in the critical waterway, which usually accounts for about 20% of the world's oil exports, sending crude prices soaring across the globe. Early in the day, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said his country would not be drawn into a wider war.
Donald Trump's response was direct. He demanded that allies send ships and military support to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But Europe's reaction was swift and striking. Germany rejected the proposal outright. Italy said it would not participate. Spain refused any military involvement. Even America's closest partners signaled they would not join a wider war. European leaders were clear in their reasoning. They did not start this conflict, and they have no intention of being dragged into it. One German official summed it up bluntly. Why should a handful of European ships be expected to resolve a crisis that the entire American Navy cannot handle alone? The message from Europe was unmistakable. This is Trump's war, and the world is not.
France has been non-committal, while Germany, Italy, Australia, and Japan have all said they would not help reopen the strait. Now, the sharpest refusal to Trump's request came from Germany. Take a listen to what the country's defense minister had to say earlier.
What does the world expect? What does Donald Trump expect from, let's say, a handful or two handful of European frigates in the Strait of Hormuz that the powerful American Navy cannot accomplish there alone? We didn't start this war. We want diplomatic solutions and a swift end.
What makes this moment especially significant is who helped shape this response. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney. From the very beginning, Carney made it clear that Canada would not be pulled into a reckless war. Instead, he pushed for diplomacy, international cooperation, and a global response focused on stability rather than escalation. His stance resonated with leaders across Europe and Asia who were already uneasy with Trump's foreign policy approach. That alignment is now taking shape. Carney recently met with the United Kingdom's Prime Minister, reinforcing the growing partnership between Canada and Europe in addressing global crises through cooperation rather than confrontation. He has also met with Germany's chancellor, another key voice opposing escalation. Together, these leaders are forming something increasingly powerful. A coalition of nations that believe global security should be built through diplomacy and alliances, not unilateral wars. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. Country after country is declining Trump's requests for military support. European Union leaders are discussing diplomatic solutions instead of escalation. Even proposals to expand existing naval missions were quickly rejected. The reason is simple. Many leaders fear that sending even one ship could drag their countries into a war that spirals far beyond control. Instead, the world is searching for ways to de-escalate. And that approach mirrors exactly what Mark Carney has been advocating all along. Diplomacy first, alliances second, war only as...
We have a situation which we did not provoke, which we don't cause at all. This war started without any consultations before. We have a big responsibility, a very important responsibility for the eastern flank and the high north, and we stay committed to that, but we can't be anywhere on the world and we can't be at every place to support a war which we didn't start. So it is about to find ways to solve the situation.
What we are witnessing may be bigger than a disagreement over a single conflict. It may signal the emergence of a new diplomatic alignment, a group of countries increasingly willing to work together independently of Washington when American leadership becomes unpredictable. Canada, the United Kingdom, Germany, much of the European Union, and several Indo-Pacific partners all share a common interest in protecting global stability and preventing conflicts from expanding into wider wars. Many of them appear to see Mark Carney as a leader capable of bringing that coalition together. This may be more than resistance to one war. It could mark the beginning of a broader shift in global politics. For decades, when Washington made a decision, its allies were expected to follow. But Donald Trump's approach has begun to change that dynamic. Launching a war without consulting allies and demanding support afterward has left many governments questioning whether Washington's leadership can still be relied upon. That's where Mark Carney's role becomes critical. While Trump pressures allies and escalates tensions, Carney has focused on strengthening partnerships, building coalitions, and prioritizing diplomacy over conflict. Now, the results are visible. Germany refusing to join the war effort. European leaders rejecting military escalation. Countries across the world seeking diplomatic solutions instead. Taken together, these developments suggest something remarkable. Instead of rallying behind Donald Trump's war, the world may be rallying around a different kind of leadership, one built on cooperation, alliances, and stability. And increasingly, that leadership is being associated with Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney.